Libra, my dear soul. 3 destined miracles are already making their way to you. And this Saturday, December 13th, is not just another day on the calendar. It is a sacred appointment with your divine turning point. This moment has been marked by the stars, written across your spirit, and whispered into your dreams long before today. You didn't just stumble onto this video. You were led here by something deeper: your intuition, your alignment, your divine GPS. And perhaps, just perhaps, this message is the confirmation you've quietly prayed for. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever felt like the universe is circling back to repay what you've silently given: your faith, your effort, your waiting? Libra, if your answer is even a soft yes, then stay with me. Because what I'm about to reveal is not only timely, it's targeted. This reading isn't general. It's not vague. It's soul-specific, crafted for the vibrational field that only someone like you can carry. This is a moment of deep energetic alignment when heaven leans in closer, and the veil between what's spiritual and what's physical begins to blur. On December 13th, a sacred door opens, one that has waited on your readiness. And behind it? 3 blessings, each destined to arrive at the exact moment you stop doubting your worth. These aren't random gifts. They're responses. Divine replies to the prayers you whispered when no one else was listening. This Saturday brings the merging of Venus, your ruling planet, and Neptune, the planet of dreams and soul longings. Their celestial harmony activates a rare frequency, the return of emotional truth, divine connection, and material opportunity. It is a triple blessing, and it is no longer far away. It is near. It is now. Libra, you are the sign of balance, but lately, you've been the one carrying everyone else's weight. This is your time to receive. Not because you've begged, but because you've finally become vibrationally available for what was always yours. And so, before we go deeper into this cosmic alignment and unpack each of the 3 miracles waiting for you, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the energy you bring into this sacred space. Thank you for showing up. Your presence here isn't passive, it's participatory. Every like, every comment, every subscription is a soul agreement. It deepens your seat at the spiritual table we've created here at Zodiac Whisper Tarot. If your spirit is already resonating with this message, I invite you to type below in the comments, "I am ready to receive the 3 miracles destined for me on December 13th. Or simply write, "This message found me for a reason." Your words are not just comments, they are activations. They are your confirmation that you're not just watching. You're co-creating. Libra, stay with me until the very last minute of this reading, because what the universe is revealing today is not just inspiring, it's life-shifting. And by the end of this message, you won't just understand what's coming. You'll remember who you've always been. So tell me, what did you feel, deep in your body, that drew you here today? Let's begin. Sometimes, clarity doesn't arrive with a loud voice or dramatic sign. It emerges gently, like sunlight spilling across a floor you didn't realize was dark. Around December 13th, a rare astrological alignment unfolds for you, Libra. Venus, your ruling planet, the one that governs love, harmony, and inner worth, forms a graceful trine with Neptune, the mystic of the cosmos. When these 2 celestial bodies harmonize, they don't just create beautiful illusions. They activate truth. But not the kind you read in books, the kind your soul remembers but your mind has been too busy to hear. This is the kind of alignment that opens doors not on the outside, but inside. You might not see a bolt of lightning or feel a sudden shift in your body, but pay close attention to the subtle nudges, a conversation that brings unexpected peace, a dream that lingers a little longer than usual, a sudden knowing that appears in stillness. What once confused you may begin to feel simpler, not because the situation has changed, but because you have. This energetic trine between Venus and Neptune creates what I often call a soul mirror. It allows you to see what you truly value, what feels real beneath the noise, and which parts of your life are actually aligned with your deeper purpose. The irony is that what gets revealed now is what's been there all along, but you needed the quiet of this season to finally perceive it. In astrology, trines are gifts, but like all gifts, they require openness. They don't force their way in. They whisper, and it's up to us to pause long enough to hear. This is where inner trust becomes more powerful than logic. If you've been feeling the urge to slow down, to reevaluate your path, or to simply create a bit of space to think more clearly, listen to that. It's not procrastination. It's preparation. The wisdom you're seeking isn't out of reach. It's just waiting for you to stop reaching and start receiving. In the rhythm of life, we often forget that growth is not always loud and external. Sometimes, the most profound expansion happens in moments of stillness and surrender. That's the invitation this transit brings, to remember that when you let go of the pressure to figure it all out, you create room for guidance to flow in. For those who live in faith, this may remind you of something deeper. That in moments when we stop striving to control every outcome, we return to trust not just in ourselves, but in something greater than ourselves. And whether you call that God, Source, or simply love, you may find that it has never stopped guiding you. The modern world keeps us busy, distracted, running, but sacred timing doesn't move at the speed of your calendar. It moves at the speed of surrender. When the Bible says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding," it isn't asking you to abandon intelligence, it's inviting you to anchor in something more enduring than overthinking. The path doesn't always need to make sense right away. But the right steps will always feel quietly right in your body before they make sense in your mind. So if clarity starts to arrive for you in gentle ways this week, a quiet yes, a small door, a soft voice inside it, and dismiss it. That's the miracle of aligned timing. It shows up in whispers, not in chaos. And all it asks of you is presence, openness, and a willingness to trust that you don't need to push to find your way. You are already on it. There's something undeniably powerful about the way life starts to respond when you quietly become ready. Not when you force it. Not when you plead. But when you begin to open inwards with clarity, humility, and reverence for your own timing. That's exactly what these three miracles are about, Libra. They aren't rewards for perfection. They're reflections of how far you've come in choosing truth over noise, faith over fear, and stillness over urgency. The first miracle begins in a place no one else sees, within your spirit. The appearance of the High Priestess alongside Temperance in your reading is no coincidence. This is the moment the inner storm calms, and for the first time in a long time, you hear your own voice beneath the clutter of expectations. You're not looking for signs outside, and Amoriere becoming the sign. This spiritual reawakening won't come as a thunderclap. It may arrive as 5 minutes of silence where, for once, you don't feel lost. Where your hand on your heart feels more comforting than any affirmation. That is grace. That is clarity. That is a holy kind of remembering that can't be taught, it can only be received. So ask yourself gently, what do I truly need right now? Not to fix anything, but simply to be more in touch with your center. When you create space to listen, your soul will speak. From there, the second miracle unfolds not in solitude, but through connection. The Two of Cups and the Lovers are not just cards of romantic love. They are messengers of alignment, timing, and sacred exchange. A soul-level connection, whether romantic, platonic, or mentoring, enters your orbit when your energy no longer guards the door. This isn't about chasing or impressing. It's about recognition. The kind that feels like returning home without ever leaving. You'll know it not because it makes sense on paper, but because something inside you softens. You'll find yourself exhaling when they speak, or feeling strangely understood without needing to explain everything. That's not fantasy. That's energetic memory, or spirit recalling something before your mind can name it. And just when your inner and emotional world begins to align, the physical world responds too. The Ace of Pentacles and Ten of Pentacles mark a shift in your tangible reality, your finances, your home, your stability. A new job offer, an unexpected check, a collaborative opportunity, or a long-delayed breakthrough could finally land in your lap. But here's the truth, this isn't luck. This is arrival. This is the culmination of the days you didn't quit, the nights you prayed without words, and the choices you made even when no one was watching. The law of attraction isn't magic, it's resonance. And when you begin honoring your worth, the universe stops sending tests and starts sending confirmation. This is the part of the journey where action meets grace. Where effort meets ease. But only when you stop running after what was never meant for you. You don't need to beg for abundance, Libra. You need only to align with it. When your energy says, I am enough, your reality begins to echo back, you always were. In busy lives, we often forget how sacred the ordinary becomes when we treat it with presence. Whether it's taking 5 mindful breaths, listening without distraction, or daring to believe that something better is on its way, these are not small acts. They are seeds of divine timing. And sometimes, when you've done your part, life meets you halfway with what you never expected but always deserved. So pause. Breathe. And ask yourself, which of these 3 miracles has already begun its quiet arrival? Then watch closely. Because sometimes, blessings don't knock. They enter the moment you stop closing the door. It's often in the quiet in-between moments when you're no longer who you were, but not yet who you're becoming, that the greatest shift begins. And Libra, if you felt lately like you're standing at a crossroads between the familiar and the unknown, that's not a mistake. It's a sacred pause. A moment carved out by the universe for you to choose, not just where you're going, but who you want to be when you get there. Astrologically, you're entering a phase where Venus, your ruling planet, invites you to redefine what freedom means to you. But this isn't the kind of freedom that comes from running away or cutting ties in frustration. This is inner freedom. The kind that blossoms quietly when you stop resisting change and start trusting what's unfolding, even if it doesn't come with guarantees. True freedom never demands that you have it all figured out. It asks only that you be willing to let go of what no longer supports your peace. If you've been delaying a decision, avoiding a transition, or clinging to something simply because it's familiar even if it no longer fits, you're not alone. That's not weakness. That's the echo of old wounds trying to keep you safe. But safety isn't always peace. And you, dear Libra, have reached a place in your journey where healing has matured into strength. What once held you back no longer defines you. And that realization is a miracle in itself. This is why emotional self-healing is not about becoming untouchable. It's about becoming honest. It's about recognizing the parts of your life you've outgrown not with shame, but with grace. Just like pruning a tree so it can bloom more fully, you are being asked to release the emotional weight that's been slowing your growth. Not because it didn't matter, but because it has served its purpose. A powerful self-help exercise I often offer clients is this: write down the 3 things that feel the heaviest in your life right now. The situations, habits, or thoughts that drain your energy, dim your light, or keep you second-guessing your worth. Then gently ask yourself, have I outgrown this? Am I strong enough to put it down now? The answer may not come instantly. But the asking alone begins to shift the energy. When we talk about manifestation and miracles, we often focus on what we want to receive. But receiving can only happen in the presence of space. You cannot hold new abundance while clutching what has already expired. Letting go isn't just spiritual, it's practical. It's the emotional housekeeping that clears the runway for what's meant to land. Sometimes, we need to be reminded that peace doesn't come from holding on tightly. It comes from releasing what no longer feels aligned and trusting that what's truly for us will never require self-abandonment. And in that space of trust, the real work begins. You learn to choose yourself not out of rebellion, but out of quiet respect for how far you've come. Even in faith-based practice, we see this mirrored time and time again. The breakthrough often comes after the release. A woman prays for clarity and feels nothing for weeks until one day, in a moment of exhaustion, she says aloud, "I surrender." And that's the very night her phone rings with the opportunity she'd long awaited. Not because she chased it, but because she finally made space for it. So if this is your crossroad moment, Libra, know this: the decision isn't about rushing forward. It's about loosening your grip on what's already slipping and having the courage to believe that what lies ahead can be better, not just different. You don't have to have all the answers. You only need to be willing to soften, to listen, and to let peace not pressure guide your next step. There's a certain power that awakens when intention meets presence, when you're no longer just hoping, but participating in the unfolding of what's meant for you. And Libra, as you arrive at this sacred moment, you're being asked not just to wait for your miracles, but to anchor them. To prepare your energy, your body, and your space as if what you asked for is already on its way. Because, truthfully, it is. The ritual you're invited into around December 13th isn't about superstition or performance, it's about alignment. You are working with energies that respond not to chaos, but to clarity. When you dress yourself in emerald green or hold a piece of rose quartz close to your chest, you're not just following tradition, you're signaling your system, your mind, and your spirit that today is not like any other day. Emerald is a frequency of growth, grounding, and abundance. Rose quartz softens your defenses, reopens the heart, and reminds you of your worth beyond all conditions. Combined, they support both the receiving and the holding of your blessings. You don't need a full ceremony or fancy tools. All that's needed is a willingness to be present. To choose the quiet moment. To create a pause long enough for your inner wisdom to rise. One of the simplest yet most transformative practices you can do is this: write down 3 things you're finally ready to release. Not because those things didn't matter, but because they've completed their lesson in your life. Fear, overthinking, shame, bitterness, pressure to prove yourself, only you know what's quietly weighed you down. And then, in a safe space, burn that paper. Watch the smoke rise and say to yourself, not in desperation, but in certainty, I am done carrying what is no longer mine. When you place your hand over your heart and speak words of readiness, something profound happens. You stop seeking validation outside and begin reaffirming your wholeness from within. That's why this moment isn't about control, it's about surrendering from a place of quiet power. Saying, I'm ready to receive the harvest of my patience, is not a plea. It's a recognition. You are no longer hoping to be chosen. You are realizing that you are. From the lens of numerology, this day carries the vibration of the number 7, an energy of deep spiritual insight, quiet knowing, and divine alignment. 7 is often considered the number of inner completion, not because everything is figured out, but because you've come home to a truth that was always within you. And so, when you speak the affirmation, I am complete and chosen, you're not predicting the future. You're witnessing the now. So much of this journey has required you to wait, to trust, to stretch through discomfort. But now, you are being asked to believe not just in miracles, but in the version of you that's finally strong enough to hold them. Sometimes the most holy act isn't kneeling in prayer. It's standing in front of your reflection and saying, I'm ready now. Not perfect. Not without scars. But available. Willing. Receptive. Even in everyday life, we see how sacred shifts unfold in the simplest spaces. A woman lights a candle, writes a sentence from her soul, places a crystal beside her desk, and suddenly, her email brings in the opportunity she's been waiting for. A man speaks words of release into the air before sleep, and by morning, clarity has taken root. These moments are not accidents. They are energetic responses to participation. So Libra, if this speaks to something real in you, take a breath. Speak your truth into the stillness. And if you feel called, write in the comments below, I am complete and chosen. Because your miracles are not waiting for perfection. They're waiting for your permission. Sometimes, the journey doesn't end with a grand finale. It ends with a quiet return to yourself. And Libra, if you've been walking through seasons where it felt like everything outside of you needed attention, validation, or fixing, this final shift is here to remind you, you were never broken. You were becoming. What you've been searching for was never out there. It was always a call to remember the sacred wholeness within you. This part of your path isn't about waiting for a miracle to arrive. It's about realizing you are the miracle, the walking, breathing proof of resilience, wisdom, and grace. That subtle shift in awareness is what opens the most powerful door, the one back to your own center. Not the self you had to perform for others. Not the version of you molded by survival. But the self that existed before fear told you to shrink. And this return isn't just emotional, it's actionable. You're being guided now to re-engage with your life from a place of grounded intention. Simple steps, daily acts, small rituals of sovereignty. Begin with the mind, write down the signs, the dreams, the nudges you receive each day for 7 days. You'll start to see that the universe isn't vague specific. It speaks in patterns, in numbers, in synchronicities, and sometimes, in the exact sentence that you needed to hear. Honor your body too. Movement doesn't have to be intense to be transformative. A morning walk in silence, a few deep stretches while you listen to your breath, these are ways to say, I'm still here, and I'm choosing to show up in my life. The body stores everything you've ever survived, but it also holds the power to release and realign. Trust it more. Then there's your relationship with the material world. It's time to check back in, not from scarcity or guilt, but from clarity. Review your finances. Cancel what no longer serves you. Reallocate your energy where it's returned. Money, like time and love, is an energy of trust. And when you direct it with wisdom, it begins to flow with intention. And finally, tend to your heart. Emotional generosity doesn't have to come through grand gestures. Send a message of appreciation to someone you once held dear. Not to reopen doors, but to release energy, to create sacred circulation. Gratitude opens spaces that closure cannot. These small acts are not checklist items, they're seeds. And what you're planting now is a life that no longer depends on external permission to thrive. You are writing a new frequency into your field, one that says, I am enough, not because you've done everything right, but because you've remembered who you are. There are moments in life where things unfold so precisely, so compassionately, that it's hard not to feel the presence of grace in it all. Like the story of a woman who, years ago on this very same date, found herself without enough money to buy food for her child. She prayed, not loudly, not desperately, but with quiet faith. Later that evening, she discovered an envelope at her door with the exact amount she needed. Inside, one sentence, God sees you. She never found out who left it. But she never questioned again whether she was alone. And perhaps that's what you need to hear now. That you are seen. That you are met. That the divine doesn't wait for you to prove your worth, it waits for you to remember it. So take this final step not as an ending, but as a beginning. One that doesn't require fireworks to be sacred. Just your presence. Just your willingness. Just your yes. You are no longer waiting at the door. You are the one walking through it. Libra, you don't need anyone's permission to begin again. You've walked through seasons of uncertainty, silence, and invisible effort, and yet, here you are, still standing, still searching, still open. That in itself is a miracle. The door you've been waiting for has never truly been closed. It's been waiting for you to recognize it. And now, it's time. This Saturday, when that sacred alignment peaks, don't hesitate to open your heart, your hands, and your mind. Because when miracles knock, you don't question your worth, you receive. Throughout this message, we've explored the divine timing moving through your life, the spiritual insight awakening in you, the heart connection that may arrive, the financial shift that's beginning to take form, the inner freedom that's asking you to release, and the ritual that helps you call it all in with clarity. But none of this matters unless you know one thing: you are the one it's all been waiting for. You are not here by accident. You didn't watch this far because you were bored. Your soul brought you here. Maybe you needed this confirmation. Maybe you needed to hear someone say, you're not too late. You're not forgotten. You're not broken. Maybe you just needed to be reminded that everything you've walked through has prepared you for this exact moment. So now I want to ask you something, not just as a guide, but as someone who sees the light in you. Will you allow yourself to believe that you are ready? That this next season isn't about fixing, but rising? That what's meant for you is not behind you, but just on the other side of that quiet, yes, in your spirit? I invite you to take that next small step. Right now, in the comments, anchor your energy by writing, "I choose to walk through the door that was always meant for me." Let your words become a contract with your future. A declaration to your mind, your body, your soul, and to the universe that you're not waiting anymore. You're stepping forward. You're claiming what is already yours. You are not the one praying in vain. You are the one being heard. You are the one being guided, even in the silence. And now, the one being called to receive. Thank you for being here, in this sacred space of truth, tenderness, and transformation. Zodiac Whisper Tarot isn't just a channel. It's a home. A sanctuary for every part of you that's been carrying more than it should. This is where you can return, again and again, to remember, you are loved, you are chosen, and yes, you are ready. So, Libra, as this message closes, the real journey begins. Take what resonated with you, and don't let it just inspire you, let it move you. Let it guide you to action. Whether it's lighting a candle, starting that journal, having that long postponed conversation, or simply breathing deeper into who you are, let this not just be a message you watched but a moment that shifted something real within you. If this touched your soul, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this space with someone else who may need it. Your support allows this message to continue reaching those who are quietly praying for a sign, just like you may have been. I'll see you in the next reading. Until then, hold your light close. Because this world needs it. And so do you.